Hey everyone, I'm Night Whispers. Tonight I've got some scary bedtime stories for you. Creepy enough to give you chills, but calm enough to help you fall asleep. Ready? Let's begin.
Story 1.
Jack, a 22-year-old university student, had planned a camping trip for the break with his friends, Emily, Ryan, and Chloe. They chose a forest abandoned for decades, known for its dark rumors and eerie tales of voices calling people by name. The forest was far, over 15 kilometers from the nearest town, and the stories surrounding it had always sent shivers down the spine of anyone who dared speak about it. For Jack and his friends, curiosity outweighed fear, and though they laughed off the warnings at first, none of them could ignore the strange allure that pulled them toward the unknown. The trip began with little incident, though their phones lost signal along the way, a fact they hardly noticed. Upon arriving at sunset, they set up 2 tents near a small creek. The night calm and the sky draped in stars. Sitting around the fire, sharing stories and laughter, a sudden scream shattered the tranquility. It came from deep within the trees, distant yet sharp enough to make their hearts race. Frozen, they tried to convince themselves it was merely the wind or an animal, but each of them felt the same chilling certainty. This was no ordinary sound.
As midnight approached, the scream returned, this time with a strange, almost deliberate tone, calling out a name. Chloe leaped upright, her face pale. That's my mother's voice," she whispered, panic evident in her trembling hands. Everyone knew her mother was hundreds of miles away. They tried to calm her, but Ryan suddenly rose, eyes glazed, moving toward the forest as if hypnotized. "Where are you going?" Jack shouted, seizing him. It's my father. He's lost, calling me." The realization hit them all. The voices were real.
Despite fear, Jack convinced his friends to venture deeper into the forest to discover the source of the sounds. Flashlights in hand, they moved cautiously, the voices growing louder and more distinct with each step. Sometimes it was a woman's cry, other times laughter they recognized, or whispers they couldn't place. The forest seemed to respond to their presence, shifting and twisting, swallowing the path they had come from. Trees appeared to move subtly, casting shadows that seemed alive, and a sense of being watched pressed down on them with every step. Suddenly, Emily screamed, "Jack, stop!" Turning, they realized Chloe had vanished. Her faint voice drifted from afar, calling, "I'm here! Come!" They ran toward the sound, but each step seemed only to increase the distance between them. All that remained was her shoe, soaked and abandoned near the creek. Panic set in as the three remaining friends, Jack, Emily, and Ryan, realized retreat was impossible. The voices multiplied, echoing their own tones, mocking and whispering incomprehensible words. Emily began to sob. "This isn't a normal forest. We're somewhere cursed."
Ryan froze at a laugh he recognized. A child's laugh. He whispered, "It's my little sister. She died 2 years ago." Before running after the sound despite his friend's pleas. Moments later, his flashlight was found on the ground extinguished, with drops of blood scattered around. Now only Jack and Emily remained. The tents had vanished, leaving no trace, and the forest had become a dark, shifting labyrinth. As Jack walked, he heard Emily call from behind. Turning, he found her beside him, safe, yet terrifyingly close. "Then who is calling me?"
He wondered. From the trees emerged a copy of Emily, identical in features and voice, but with jet-black eyes and a twisted, sinister smile. Emily screamed, "Don't look at her! Don't speak to her!" The copy advanced, followed by dozens of other shadowy versions flickering in the darkness. The forest filled with screaming, laughter, and whispers of things that made no sense. Jack felt his head might explode. He grabbed Emily's hand and ran blindly. The world suddenly went black, silence swallowing everything. Jack found himself alone in the center of the forest. No Emily, no Ryan, no voices, just darkness. Behind him stood a figure, not a copy of anyone he knew, only a shadowy silhouette, smiling with hollow eyes. The forest pressed in around him, threatening to consume him if he lingered. But he noticed something strange. Whenever he focused on a clear path between the trees and ran without looking back, the voices faded. The forest was a maze, yet one corridor remained untouched by them. He ran with all his strength, ignoring the taunting cries and mimicked voices. Each step forward opened the path a little more. Suddenly, the air shifted. The suffocating humidity and cold dread vanished, replaced by the earthy smell of the forest floor. Emerging at the edge of the woods, Jack saw the road they had originally entered from. Night still hung heavy, but the voices were gone. He stood, chest heaving, nearly collapsing from fear, glancing back at the black forest. He understood the truth. The forest had released him, not because he was stronger, but because it had chosen him to live and carry its story. Since that night, faint whispers sometimes reach him in the quiet, echoes of Emily, Ryan, and Chloe. The forest is not finished with him yet. Story 2. About 2 years ago, I was driving home from a family reunion pretty late at night. The drive was about 2 hours, and I didn't stay the night because I had to be back for work the following day. Most of the road was surrounded by dense, dark trees and bushes, the kind of road you only see in horror movies. After about 45 minutes of driving, exhaustion hit me like a wall. You know that sudden, crushing tiredness that makes your eyelids feel like lead? That's exactly what happened. I knew I wasn't going to last much longer, but there were no gas stations, no safe spots to pull over, just an endless black road and those trees that seemed to lean in closer the further I drove. Finally, I did something I still regret. I pulled off the road onto the grass, partly hidden by some bushes. The road wasn't completely empty. I'd seen a car every few minutes, so I thought hiding my car was safer. I glanced at the clock, 11:22. Then I let the exhaustion take me. I woke up suddenly to a scratching sound against the car. The clock read 11:50. It stopped after a few seconds. Still half asleep, I dismissed it as maybe a branch or an animal. But deep down, something about it felt deliberate. I closed my eyes and drifted off again. At 12:40, the same sound dragged me back awake. This time, it didn't stop. Long, slow, dragging scratches like nails testing the surface of the car. My chest tightened. I thought, maybe it's just an animal again. But then why come back almost an hour later? I leaned slightly forward and checked my rear view mirror. For a split second, I caught something darting back into the tree line. The figure was low, fast, almost human, but wrong. Its movements were jerky, too quick to be natural. My body screamed at me to leave. I started the car and pulled back onto the road. Barely 100 yards later, I came around a bend and my stomach dropped. There was another car pulled over, its driver's side door wide open. The interior light was on, casting a pale glow into the trees, but there was no one inside. As I slowed down, I noticed something unsettling. The car's windows were fogged from the inside, and faint handprints smeared the glass.
I glanced into my mirror again. Nothing. And then, suddenly, a man came sprinting out from the darkness of the bend behind me. His face was pale, his eyes wide, and he screamed at the top of his lungs. "Hey! Hey, you! Get out of the car! Now!" But it wasn't just his voice I heard. Behind him, faintly, carried on the night air, I swear I heard whispers, dozens of them, like a crowd chanting, their words tangled, impossible to understand.
I slammed the gas pedal and tore down the road, my hands shaking on the wheel. The man's screams faded behind me, but the whispers didn't. For a long time, even with the windows rolled up and the road stretching empty ahead of me, I could still hear them. And when I finally reached the lights of the nearest town, one last chill ran through me. The clock on my dashboard flickered, glitched for a moment, and reset itself back to 11:22, the exact time I had fallen asleep. Story 3. I was 11 when this happened. To this day, my parents don't know. I still don't know how to tell them without sounding crazy. We lived in a small barangay in the Philippines, in a wooden house with a crawl space beneath it, just enough room for a person to squeeze under. It's the kind of place where rice fields stretch forever and coconut trees lean toward the sky like crooked fingers. Our house sat at the very edge of the road, just before it turned into a dirt path leading to the river. Beyond that, nothing but fields and trees and silence. People here had rules. Don't whistle at night. Don't point at old trees. Don't stay out after dark. Kids were told that all the time. If we asked why, the adults would just shake their heads and say, "May mga bagay na hindi mo maintindihan." There are things you won't understand. I thought it was just old folks being superstitious. Kwentong matatanda, we called it. Old people's stories. That night, the power went out. I remember the heat first. It was the kind of heavy, sticky heat that clung to your skin and made the air feel like a blanket. The kind of heat that turned darkness into something alive. No lights, no fan, no TV, just the sound of crickets and distant dogs barking at nothing. My parents told me they were going to the barangay hall. They didn't say why, but I figured it had to do with the blackout. "Stay with your sister," my mom said before they left. I nodded. It was just me and Nika, my little sister, who was 8 at the time. She was already asleep on the bed in our shared room. I sat in the living room, a single candle flickering on the low table. Shadows stretched across the walls like they were alive, twitching every time the flame wavered. I stirred my hot chocolate drink slowly, watching the powder swirl in the cup, trying not to think about how quiet it was.
That's when I heard the knocking. 3 knocks. Slow, heavy, like someone dragging their hand against the wood before letting it fall. I froze, my spoon clinking against the cup. Then silence. I waited, listened. Maybe it was a neighbor. People in our barangay always borrowed things. Salt, matches, candles. I got up, my legs trembling for no reason I could explain. The door was closed. I tiptoed to the window instead and pulled the curtain just enough to peek outside. At first, I saw nothing, just the dark silhouettes of coconut trees swaying gently against the night sky. Then I saw her. A woman stood right outside our door.
Her hair was long, so long it almost touched her waist, and it hung over her face in thick, damp strands. She wore a white dress that looked loose on her body, fluttering slightly even though the air was dead still. Her head was bowed. I couldn't see her eyes. Buksan mo ang pinto, anak. Open the door, child. Her voice was soft, calm. I gripped the curtain tighter. Who are you? My voice cracked. I'm your tita Aunt Liza, she said without lifting her head. Your mama sent me. There's been an accident. Tita Liza. The name didn't sound familiar at all. I don't know any Tita Liza, I whispered.
The woman tilted her head slowly, and that's when I saw her mouth. Her lips stretched into a smile that went too far, pulling unnaturally toward her cheeks. Of course you do, she said. I'm family. Something in my gut screamed at me to move away, to run, but my legs felt glued to the floor. Her voice sounded wrong. It sounded like it was trying too hard to sound right, like someone reading lines from a script. Then she said it. Open the door, Leo. My heart stopped. I never told her my name. My chest felt tight, like my lungs were collapsing. That's when she lifted her head. The candlelight from inside the house caught her face for just a second, and I saw her eyes. They weren't human. They were black and shiny, like pools of oil. Her smile didn't fade. It widened.
The knocking started again, louder this time. The door rattled in its frame. Open the door, Leo. Your mama is dying. I ran. I didn't think. I just ran to the bedroom, grabbed Nika by the arm, and pulled her from the bed. She mumbled in her sleep, confused, but I didn't stop. We crawled under the bed together.
I wrapped my arms around her and clamped a hand over her mouth. The knocking stopped. For a second, I thought it was over. Then came the sound of nails. Long, slow, deliberate scratches across the wood. My skin crawled. Leo? The voice dragged out the syllable, savoring it like it could taste my fear. But her voice wasn't at the door anymore. It was at the bedroom window. Then softer, almost teasing. Nika. My stomach dropped. Each time it called, the sound came from a different side of the house, moving closer, circling, searching for a way in. I held Nika so tight I could feel her heartbeat hammering against my chest. The smell of dust mixed with candle smoke and sweat, making me dizzy. I don't know how long we stayed like that. My arms went numb, my chest burned from holding my breath. Minutes felt like hours.
After a few moments of silence, a faint scraping came from the crawl space beneath the house. Low, wet, deliberate. I froze. Something was moving down there. I peeked through a gap in the floorboards under the bed. At first, nothing but pitch-black darkness. Then, movement. The earth floor came into view, and I realized I was looking directly at its eyes, black, glossy, and inches from my face. Then I felt it. Through a slightly larger gap beneath the bed, the creature was able to barely insert one of its long, spindly fingers. It scraped across my ankle, cold and sharp like ice. It didn't grab me, just a scratch, but it left long, raw marks on my skin. My heart hammered so hard I thought it would burst. Nika and I scrambled out from under the bed, our breaths shallow and fast. We pressed ourselves into the corner of the kitchen, hiding behind a rice sack, trying not to make a sound. Every faint rustle, every soft thump from somewhere else in the house made my skin crawl. When my parents came home, I didn't say a word. The next morning, I asked my mom casually, "Do we have a Tita Liza?" She frowned. "No. Why?" I shook my head. Nothing. In the Philippines, when someone knocks, they usually call out, "Telpo." It's like saying, "Is anyone there?" But it also translates to, "I'm human." My Lola once said it began as a warning, a way to assure the household you weren't something else, something pretending to be human. The thing outside our house never said it.
Thank you for watching and listening. Don't forget to subscribe for more scary stories. I wish you a quiet night, if you can sleep.